Hello everyone, welcome to another video. So, like the previous two videos, we'll be going over one of my games in the invitational tournament that I played. So, the first two games, the result was not in my favor. I lost the first game to Shivin. The second game was a draw with Soumya, and yeah, the third round was a bye for me, and this is the fourth round where I needed a win. Otherwise, I would be out of the tournament. So we had kept the prize for the top three, and I think Shibin had won both his games, and Shoumya had won one, and Gaurav had also won one. So I was the only one with 0.5. And this game was against Amar. So I think he played some opening inaccuracies, and let's go over them and see how we took advantage of it and what he could have done better, right? So the game started with the typical e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4 opening. So this is again the called the Utopian or the Italian opening. He played bishop to e7, which according to me is not the best move. I think he might be afraid of tricks like knight g5, knight f7, but those tricks are only possible if you play knight f6 directly. And again, not all of those tricks actually work. Here, bishop c5 is played, and this is actually, according to me, the best move of the position because it stops d4 ideas. So both sides have equal control on center, and one of the side cannot directly take control of the entire center without giving the opposition some kind of compensation for it. So generally in chess, this fight is all about the center, and here he kind of missed that opportunity to fight for the center. So bishop e7. I could have done castling, but I thought, okay, the bishop is already placed. Why not just grab the center? I was thinking of playing c3 at one point, maybe c3, knight f6, but then I thought, okay, now I have to defend the center by playing d3 or queen e2. So, and I felt like here direct d4 would be more impactful because I'm again taking direct control on the center. And here I did expect him to play knight f6 and continue on, but when he exchanged this, I felt this is much better for me as my queen is on the center. So generally putting the queen on the center is not considered a good idea, but that is when the queen can be attacked. Here the piece that was able to attack the queen, the knight is already exchanged. So the queen is safe and on the center, which is a good square. And also his g7 pawn is under kind of some attack. So knight f6 was expected by me, and I thought maybe after knight f6 I can also play e5. So let's say knight f6, maybe e5, and yeah, d5 was a possibility, but I thought like if he moves the knight somewhere, I can just develop knight c3 and I'll have a strong position. Uh, the movie played, I didn't again like it, bishop f6. So the reason I didn't like it is he moved his bishop multiple times, and he's also covering an important square for the knight. Also, what I felt is if the knight square is on e7 and I can play queen d5, then there's a checkmate. So which I played, and there's a checkmate, and if he has the only way to defend is play queen e7, and the knight does not actually have a good square to develop now. The other thing I thought of was e5, and I thought after queen e7, f4, d6, um, I had some chances, but this was again a bit more on the complicated side. So like I can do castling, and then he captures, I capture, and he captures. So there are complications involved in this bishop f7, king e7. So I didn't want to go into these complications, and Again, this tournament has not been that good for me, where I have been misevaluating positions. So I thought maybe let's keep it simple. And I thought Queen D5 gives me equally as good of a chance as E5 does, but it's more simplistic and easier to play with. Queen E7 to defend, and I simply castled. Now E5 is actually a threat. So he played Queen E6, trying to exchange. And the thing is, I need to use my queen to defend both my bishop and pawn. And as a rule of thumb, when you are attacking, you don't want to exchange pieces. So I played Queen D3. He played Queen B6. I could have played Knight C3, but I thought maybe let's just play C3. And I had a small trick in my mind, which uh, eventually worked out happily for me. So Knight A3. And the idea is I want that you will see further is I want to give up this pawn to the queen. So if queen captures, I have knight b5 threatening to do a fork on the rook and king. And if the rook saves the pawn, I'll just trap the queen. So that was the threat. Uh, he did not fall for it. But again, after Bishop e3, I don't see a good square for the queen as well. Like, where would the queen even move? Bishop e3, and like if queen moves to c6, bishop b5 pins the queen to the king, and I'll win the queen for a bishop. Uh, bishop c4 is something I had calculated. I had thought I can play queen c4 or knight c4, both should be okay. Like even with queen c4, I think he cannot still capture because of knight b5 and the same thing. And knight c4 also looked equally good to me. And but he played c5 to block my attack, and I think I had seen this that after captures I can play knight c4 and do a fork. So the knight protects the pawn, attacks the queen, and helps attack this pawn with my queen. He played queen c6, and I could have captured with the knight and continued the attack, but I thought, okay, I can gain a pawn, and if pieces exchange, that's even better for me. And these pieces aren't really developed, so why not just exchange the queens? He captured the e4 pawn. I felt like yeah, he should have exchanged the queens for a longer game, but anyways, I felt like he was not winning. Queen captures, and again, I thought he will play something like bishop e7 and knight d6 check, and the game would continue on where I have an extra pawn, but I'll again put pressures on his pawn and king. Uh, Here there was a trick, because of which I thought he will play bishop e7 or maybe play queen c6, but he played knight e7, and the trick that was mentioning earlier, knight d6, and it's a fork on the queen and king and the queen. So he would lose the queen here for free. So at this position he resigned, and I won my first game. Yeah, finally. So we'll stop here for today, and in the next video we will discuss my final game. It was with Gaurav, and again an interesting game. So until then, see you and have a good one.